Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast, Beyond the Pulpit. My name is Jamie Dew, and I'm the president of New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, Level College, and excited to be with you in this podcast. Let me tell you a little bit about myself first, and then if you're new to me and who I am, and then I'll say something about the nature of this podcast, the kinds of stuff that we're going to talk about. So I've been a Christian now for 30 years this summer. I'm excited to know the Lord now, more so than probably even back then. And when I came to faith in June of 1995, when I converted to Christianity, simultaneously the Lord was calling me into ministry. I can remember the night that I came to faith. It wasn't just the gospel that made sense to me. It was my entire existence, everything about who I was and why I was the way that I was. It all just seemed to make sense. Jesus was the key. It sort of unlocked everything for me. And so now for the last 30 years, been doing ministry. I serve here at NOBTS. I've been in this role now for about 6 years and absolutely love what I get to do. I came to faith out of a rough background. My parents split up when I was a little boy, about the age of 7. I was already struggling in school. I was already a little bit mischievous and such. And when they split up when I was 7 years old, it sent me into just an absolute tailspin, free fall. And got into all sorts of things as a kid. By the time I got into high school, drugs and alcohol and partying and doing all kinds of things, everything associated with that lifestyle, that was me. And it broke me. It absolutely devastated me. I started getting in trouble with the law and things like that my junior year in high school. But even before that began to happen, while I was indulging in all these things, there was this growing sense that there was something terribly wrong in my heart and something terribly wrong with me. And I just began to try to fix myself in every possible way that I knew how to do it. I was very unsuccessful in doing that. Nothing I tried worked. But it all came to a head my junior year in high school. I got arrested the first time for stealing 7 cases of beer out of the back of a grocery store with a couple buddies, and then got arrested a second time for smoking pot in my Jeep one night as I was riding around. And those 2 events really brought it all to a head. Through that season, I did have some people in my life beginning to share Christ with me and talking to me about how Jesus loved me. I remember I had one school teacher in particular. Her name was Patricia Marshall. And I would come into class high and put my head on my desk, and she would come over and she'd put her hand on my head and she would whisper that Jesus loved me. And I can remember just thinking that she was kind of crazy for saying those types of things to me. But in the moments of despair, when I got down to the rock bottom, it was her words that I could remember. And I could just remember beginning to pray and ask God, Lord, if you're really out there and if you love me the way that Miss Marshall says that you do, then would you please help me? And shortly thereafter, I would get arrested again that second time, and the Lord started a process in my life in the fall of 1994 that ultimately brought me to faith in June of 1995 at a Centrifuge youth camp. And it had all the hype and all the things that people pick on and, kind of criticize about youth ministry. It had all that. And yet Jesus showed up in my life there at that youth camp and saved me. And for 30 years, I've had the great fortune of serving him, serving God's people. I've been a pastor. I've been a professor. I taught philosophy at Southeastern Seminary and a little bit at Liberty University online for a while, and then came here in 2019 as the president. But I've had the opportunity over the last 30 years to do lots and lots of different kinds of ministry. And because my professional life has been in a seminary context, virtually all of it, I have been around ministers of the gospel, pastors, servants of the church my entire adult life, and I've gotten to see what works and what doesn't work. And I've seen people flourish, and I've seen people do amazing things for the Lord, and I've also seen people make some terrible mistakes along the way. And I have a particular burden for, you, those of you out there listening to this or watching this. I'm grateful that you have said yes to the Lord and that you're serving the Lord the way that you are. And so that brings me to this podcast. Why another podcast? My goodness gracious. We got so many podcasts out there. There's a real sense in which, goodness gracious, we don't need one more. So why in the world am I doing this? Well, I don't know why the Lord has put certain things in my hands to be a steward over, but he has. And one of those things is that there's folks that, as I've talked to, and you've asked me to talk about some things and such, and so I do feel compelled to whatever degree that I can encourage you or your spouse or your family in the ministry that God's called you to, this whole podcast is about us trying to be faithful to the Lord. It's not about necessarily what I think. It's certainly not about a platform. It's just about us trying to give our lives to the cause of Christ and trying to be faithful with that and trying to encourage each other and celebrate the good things and talk about the hard things and press on together to try to honor the Lord. And so here's what we're going to do in this podcast. This is the very first one. You're just hearing from me what this is all about. I'm going to talk to my peers, my friends, my colleagues. I'm going to talk to guests that come to our campus that are doing ministry. This is about all of ministry, not just the pulpit. We will talk about the pulpit. We will talk about preaching. We will talk about pastoral ministries a lot in this podcast. But we're going to talk about everything else beyond that as well, hence the name, Beyond the Pulpit. It's about the whole life of the minister of the gospel. And so there are going to be times I'm going to have my wife come in here. We're going to talk about being married in ministry. We're going to talk about raising children in ministry. We're going to talk about serving the Lord together, encouraging one another. I'm going to talk to some of my scholars around here in the campus to help you try to figure out, how do you preach the Old Testament? How do you understand this doctrine? We'll talk about things like apologetics. We'll talk about philosophy and ethics, and we'll talk about systematic theology. We'll also talk about things like counseling, and we'll talk about things like evangelism and pastoral ministry and what it looks like to be a minister in this context or that context. Anything and everything we can do to just try to encourage you in the ministry that God's given you and try to all of us together be faithful to the Lord. So that's what we're going to try to do. We're even going to talk a lot about, life things and fun things. Like I will talk about things I'm interested in, like hunting or just the outdoors and stuff like that. Anything we can do to try to together serve the Lord and be faithful to Him. That's what this podcast is going to be about. So I appreciate you. I'm humbled for the life of me. I don't understand why anybody wants to hear what I have to say, but I understand that perhaps, maybe there are some that do. And so I'm very humbled by that, and I'm honored by that. And I want to do what I can do to try to encourage you and this generation of servants for the Lord. Let's be faithful to Him, because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. So we're going to talk about ministry, pulpits, Beyond the Pulpit, everything else. That's what the podcast is about. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time when I've got some guests with me.